Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens, and welcome back to our series on Voices of Peace and Justice from Ferguson to Minneapolis. We are here today with Maxine, an expert and an advocate for issues on poverty. She's a grassroots board member of Results, which is an international advocacy organization working to end poverty. Maxine, we thank you so much for your phenomenal work and for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what inspired you to become an advocate for those fighting poverty?
Thank you. So I would say a little bit about myself. I am just an everyday person, I would say. A lot of folks say don't minimize who I am, but really I don't look at it anything greater than what I'm doing as a single mother raising 5 children here in the Midwest. I live in Indiana, and I do work full time for one of the largest food banks here in the Midwest, doing SNAP outreach, as well as other endeavors that I engage in. As far as my advocacy, I would say I've been advocating really as far as I can remember. Most recently, it's been since 2013 with Results, the organization that I had came across through another organization who inspired us to learn how to amplify our voices by fighting the political will to end anti-hunger, anti-poverty issues here in the U.S. and globally. And once I learned of issues that are affecting us directly here at home, I just kind of just dove right into my advocacy with sharing more with my neighbors and communities about just how easy it is to really use our voices to speak with our elected officials.
And you talk about being an advocate for your entire life. So, and I know it can be difficult, but can you share with us your favorite moment or a couple of your favorite moments throughout your, entire life's work of advocacy?
Wow, it's many. Because it's you have a personal connection. It's always something different. Advocating really is just speaking up and wanting to get change and being heard. And so a lot of times folks don't realize that you begin advocating when you step in and be that person who wants to put a stop to something that you see isn't right, or if you see something that you know needs to be amplified. And so one of my greatest moments is when I would say 2014, when I attended the international conference at Results, and just knowing that there was a lot of other people across the world doing the same thing that I was doing. And that really blew my mind because where I come from, I was not around or surrounded by a lot of people who really shared and spoke up for justices and causes that really matter. It's a thing where most times you just don't even mention anything out of for various reasons, whether it's a stigma, or you may feel a form of retaliation, or you may feel like you may be odd and having a voice in certain things. And so in 2014, I attended my first international conference, meeting so many wonderful people across our globe, like I mentioned, as well as some wonderful speakers and world leaders. And what inspired me and as a great moment was knowing that I originally started or joined Results because I felt like I wanted to help save the world, not realizing that there were issues here at home that needed attention. At the time, it was protecting the earned income tax credit and child tax credit. That was a bill that was a law that was set to expire in 2017. Mind you, I said this is 2014 when I was made aware of it. And so there was a huge tax bill that was up for discussions throughout many sessions on how to include and expand and make permanent this permanent earned income tax credit for working families. And so I had no idea about that credit even being up for being dismantled and no longer being a thing. And so I realized that it was something that I had to do. And so from there, I just had this aha moment in my life that this is why I'm here. And so I connect that to 2015 when that that actual tax bill was passed on November the 4th, 2015, which included protecting the earned income tax credit and child tax credit. And so I share that because I was able to be a part and witness just the efforts of our advocacy and being able to see real results.
I think sort of continuing on that advocacy work that, you talk about everyone has been doing with the recent death of George Floyd and the anti-racism movement within our country and the whole world, we have seen several organizations stepping up and joining hands. And Results has always been working on anti-racism efforts through advocacy on affordable housing, the racial wealth divide, and a more equitable tax policy. So, where do you think we stand today on our work with legislative policy in fighting racism?
Thank you for asking that, Sheree. And so, if I may mention, just even with just the tyranny of what's happened in with the whole racism and oppression that we are seeing across our country, I can witness to the fact that several years prior, these were conversations that, as a board member with Results, I began to raise awareness on some of the issues that we as an organization must have some systems in place to protect ourselves and being able to learn and grow through um, subconscious biases that each of us may have through oppression, and identifying these and finding ways to be able to learn how to grow through these issues and being able to communicate that with our legislators. And because we do have these crises such as housing, affordable housing, and the racial wealth divide, knowing that these are detrimental to how our policies are shaping communities and why poverty is even a theme and how it exists through racist policies. I believe that we have now, as great advocates, been able to be leaders and champion speaking boldly about inequality to the racial wealth gap and becoming more equitable with policies that are including our communities of underserved citizens, and being able to have these conversations with our lawmakers, as well as proven records of policies that we could present that would be able to help build and strengthen our programs that we are supporting and wanting support from our lawmakers.
And continuing on those policies and working with lawmakers, what has your experience been when you meet with our members of Congress to discuss those policies and work on those policies working towards economic equity?
My personal experience, I can witness again to, like I said, I'm in Indiana, so I live in our metropolitan capital city of Indianapolis. So we're heavily blue in the city, but knowing that I love the fact that Results, we are a nonpartisan organization. So we really work great with across party lines and being able to talk about policies at a humanity level. And so knowing that it has been tough conversations personally with some of my House reps, as well as recent senators who, quite frankly, oppose some forms of legislation when it comes to identifying it as an equity standpoint. I do believe that through my the skills that I have developed over time through my advocacy, I can say that with there's with one of my senators who I had a conversation with a couple years ago. Again, representing so many hats under my belt at the table, from someone with firsthand experience to being a board member, an advocate, a group leader, all these above. And so I started the conversation around affordable housing with my senator and asked, were there any conversations around housing policies, affordable housing policies? And there was no conversations. And so because I was able to build those relationships personally with the staff and time from with my senator, they championed, and my senator actually created a task force on affordable housing, which has bipartisan support. And so my personal experience with meeting with our members of Congress on these policies have really been able to move the needle with having these conversations and being able to get, again, results, whether it is in opposition or support of where we are in our organization. I do believe building those relationships has helped identify ways that we can communicate with these offices.
And you sort of talked about the opposition to, some of these policy that results sort of proposes and you sort of get behind. And, from your experience, what is the biggest obstacle to equitable policy and what can citizens do?
That's a tough one. But I believe that there's no strange happenings. I believe that if you're not dreaming big enough, and if your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough, rather. And so I would say some of the hurdles would be is connecting with the reality that not everyone see through the same lens as many of us, or those that we are comfortable with. And so I would say being able to, one, connect on that personal level, like building relationships is key. So I believe through equitable policy, we would, if we first come in as human to human first, and then we engage with where we are with something that's relatable. So then growing into more of the formal conversations around where um, that legislator may stand, or whoever it is we may be talking to may stand, who may be opposition of some of these policies, finding a way to bridge that gap to make that core relationship of saying, if I'm talking, like, for instance, quick example, I remember years ago, one of my very first Hill meetings I had with a representative who is, I mentioned previous, is our now U.S. Senator in Indiana, and I have shared about the joy on my kids' faces when I'm able to take them to the mall and they're able to get a brand new pair of shoes upon receiving this earned income tax credit. And how at the time, like, that's just, as a parent, as a mom, it's just like, you can see how happy kids are because they have a new pair of shoes. And so because of that relationship, my rep at the time was wanting to make a connection. And so what he heard was shoes. And so he was able to identify, okay, maybe that's the same experience or feeling I have when I go downstairs to the basement and get my shoes shined. Now, had I taken that approach, or had I taken it, it wasn't easy to hear that, but that was his way of making a connection. Because more, I hope everyone has shoes. Like, that's ideal. But my children with shoes, and he getting him getting his shoes shine was a relation, that something that he was able to connect with. And so finding a way to make a connection was key. Whether it was still on two totally different spectrums, it was still a connection. And so then it's like, okay, he get it, but he don't get it. So now what's the next step in being able to then try to introduce policy to say, what if you wasn't able to get your shoes shine ever again? And now the shoes that you love the most, if we can find a way to connect it with some form of policy. And this may be like totally off, but really I'm always considering how we can really connect different pieces to then get to a point of saying, you know, I too one day wish that, my son would be able to experience being able, the joy of getting his shoe shine as he's serving in office in one of these, out here. And, we have policies that we want to make sure that children like mine are able to grow up to be powerful leaders like yourself. And so it's just ways to be able to connect that I think, and it would come with practice. It would come with passion. It would come with so many skills that citizens, even if we are working with each other to help support each other with how we are going into these different offices or meeting with certain people on do's and don'ts, or how can I make this approach, but making it natural and authentic to yourself, having a true relationship, you know. So yeah.
And talking about that practice and talking about that experience, I think that, in recent times, it's been people have been getting that experience of advocacy and getting that experience of, really feeling something passionate and really working towards it at a younger and younger age. And I know that there are many teenagers and many teens out there who are quite passionate about something and are, quite interested in advocating for it and getting behind it. So what would your message be to teens and how they can get involved in advocacy?
Wonderful question. I'm just excited to know that the conversations are being even brought up to help teens understand that they can. You know, everyone's voices matter. Everyone has a story. Whether your level of advocacy is fighting justice for policies around hunger and poverty, or um, whatever cause that may be important to you, I say speak up, be bold, even in your own school systems and communities and programs. Um, I believe that once, it doesn't matter how old you are, once you are able to understand that you are somebody, no one else is like you, and what you have is so unique that will really be able to help the next person, you will realize how powerful you really are. And so if you sit silent, then you may miss that opportunity of really helping change someone else's life. Someone is really waiting for you to get up and say something. And just as we may sit around and wait for that someone else to be that person to say something, you know, I say just go for it. And really, I think too, if any young folks are maybe discouraged or kind of timid because of peers and wanted to realize, or what other people may say may affect you, like, I don't want to do this because I'm worried about what someone else is thinking. Get over it. Like, you can't change. First of all, you can't get nobody's mind, so you can't tell nobody how to think. You can't tell nobody how to feel, because your feelings are real to you. You have to own that, and no one can tell you how to feel. Those are your feelings, and you have to feel the way you feel. And I would hate for someone to miss the opportunity, knowing that it was something that they had the power to do something, and they missed the opportunity, and the world is waiting for just you to do it. So I believe in young people. I have a team myself. My daughter just turned 18, and my son will be 13. My oldest son will be 13 in November. And so, like, when my children see me speaking up on certain issues and things, I see it raising in them to be bold and to speak up. And not everybody is created to be just some loud, talkative person that's out here teaching, training, and things like that. But I think everybody's role is so unique and important. So the gift that you have, only you have it. And if you don't do it, then we're going to be losing. And it's like, you don't want your gift to become weak if you don't use it. It's like a muscle. You have to continue to practice and build that muscle. And you might not realize that even when it's hard and tough, it's really building endurance. And I say one last thing about that. Even in times of adversity, just like the muscle, when you work it out, adversity makes you stronger. So, like, speak up, be bold, and just like turn up with it, you know?
Well, Maxine, we thank you so much for taking the initiative to bring change to our systems through policy and talking to policymakers. And we thank you for your service and for your time and answering all of our questions today.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.